So in a previous video, we saw that the general form of a straight line graph, which is a linear equation, the general form of a linear equation, which always gives a straight line graph, is y equals mx plus c, where m is the gradient, that means how steep the line is, and c is the y-intercept. Let's look at it a bit more, all right? Now, we could very well take the time to plot the points on the graph. However, what we want to do is use a program to save time, but at the same time, I want you to practice your plotting. So you should get a pack of graph papers and plot these graphs. Now, our software here is GeoGebra. And let me just erase these and look at this a bit more. Let us erase these graphs, these lines, delete, delete. Now, suppose we have y equals 2x plus 3 as our graph. Right? Y equals 2x plus 3. What would that look like? You should be able to guess what it would look like. It will have a gradient of and an intercept of. Where will it cut? The y-axis. Let's see if you're right. 2x plus 3. Okay, let's thicken our line though. Let's make it thicker, and I like showing the label on it. The value of the label is 2x plus 3. You see that? Now let's look at something else here. We know from before that you can get the gradient of the line on the graph by drawing a right angle triangle. But there's some other method that you could use. Suppose you consider this point. What point is this? Right here. What are the coordinates of this point? It is above 2 on the x-axis, so x is 2, and beside 7, so it's at 2, 7. You see that? Let's choose another point. Let's say here, right here. What are the coordinates of that point? It is above what on the x-axis? 0, and is right on 3. Now, if we choose this point as point 1 and this point as point 2, then we can consider that the difference in height between point 1 and point 2, if we should have drawn our right angle triangle like this, what would be the difference in height? It would be the difference of the y values, 7 and 3. Right? So, this rise or this height is the difference between 7 and 3. Now, we can say the height here is 7 minus 3, which is the rise. Now, suppose since we consider this as point 1, we call this x1 and this y1. And since we consider this as point 2, we call this x2 and this y2. Now, 7 minus 3 is the same as y1 minus y2. You see that? That's the rise. What about the run, the width of that right angle triangle? how would you get it? Right here is above 2, and this other point is above 0. So the width, how wide this is 2 minus 0. But then 2 is below what? It is where does it fall in terms of the y value or the x value? Where does it fall? Right here, x is 2, and right here, x is 0. Now the x2 and y2 are applied to this point here. Now, the 2 is right below x1. You can see that. 2 is falling right below x1. Remember, x2 and y2 are right here. Now, this is point x2, the 0 is x2. So, if 2 is right below x1, and this point lines up with x2, then we can say x1 minus x2 is the run. So, if we want rise over run, where 7 minus 3 is the rise going up and down, 2 minus 0 is the run, then we can say this is 7 minus 3, which is 7 is at y1 and 3 is at y2, so it's y1 minus y2 divided by 2 is at x1 up here right below x1, so it's x1 minus, and then right on x2 we have 0, so this is x2. So basically we have a formula here. y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2 will give the gradient, because y1 minus y2 is the difference in the y's, the difference in the height, which is the rise, and x1 minus x2 is the run. Now, let's look at this even a bit more. Suppose we consider this point to be point 2, and it is at 2, 7. It's above x equal 2 and beside y equals 7. Let's not choose 0, 0 this time. Let's choose this point. This is point 1. And where does it fall? It falls at x equal negative 2. So it's negative 2, comma, and y, this is beside y equal negative 1. Alright. Now that we switched around the points, instead of calling the one up here point 1, we call it point 2, and instead of calling the one down here point 1, we call point 2, we call it point 1. Now, our right angle triangle, when we look at the height of this, how much does this rise? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It rises 8. Now that height is really 7 minus negative 1, which is 7 plus 1. It's going to turn out to be 7 plus 1. But let's keep it at 7 minus negative 1 for now. But 7.7, we're looking at the height, so it's y. The difference in y is that we're dealing with y here and y here. We call this x2, y2, since it is point 2, and this is x1, y1, since this is point 1. It is 7, which is y2, minus the negative 1, which is y1. You see it here, down here. Minus y1. That's the rise. What about the run? I'm going to divide by the run. How much does it run left to right? Let's see. It was 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 4 to the right. But then, the difference in height here, or the difference in the width, is this. This is point 1. I went a bit off, trying to keep my hand straight. If this is point 1, right, then what you have at right here is negative 2, negative 1, which is x1, y1. And the width, how wide this is going to be, this is right below 2, 2, and this is at negative 2, right? So it's this 2 minus this negative 2, that's how wide it is. 2 minus negative 2 is going to be 2 plus 2 equals to 2 plus 2, which is 4. That's why I have 1, 2, 3, 4 wide. So, what we have here is x1. This is lining up at point x1, which is lining up with 2, so it is at x1. Alright, let me write the 2 minus negative 1 here. So this is we had y2 minus y1, and then, no, not x1, x2. It is x2 that is 2, right? That was my mistake earlier. x2 is 2, and it lines up with the 2 here. So it's x2 minus, then what is y1? Or x1, I should say. x1 is negative 2. So we have 2 minus negative 2, which is x2 minus x1. So we do have two alternative formulas that we could use. y1 minus y2 over x1 minus x2, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The only thing here now is this. You have to be careful. Don't mix the 1s and 2s. Do not say y1 minus y2 up here, then go down here and say x2 minus x1. Don't switch them around. You have to be consistent. If you start with 1 up top, you have to start with 1 down the bottom. Right? If you start with 2 up top, y2 minus, then you have to start with x2 minus. Alright. So, this is what we have so far. What we're going to do, I'll just erase this from now, is examine it a little further in another video. Alright, so I'll see you in the next video.